So I lost 110 pounds and I wanted to be honest with you about something. I didn't figure out most of it, how I was doing it, until I was almost completely done. And I know that sounds backwards, but I spent a lot of time early on doing things that I felt was right, that made sense on paper, things that everybody told me, things that everybody hears when it comes to dieting. And they weren't wrong exactly, because they worked. I lost weight. They just weren't the entire picture. And a lot of people really don't talk about the parts that actually move the needle. So that's what this video is. Not a before and after. It's not a motivation speech. Just the stuff that I wish I knew right off the bat if I can go back in time and start over the way I would do it. Before I wasted time, before I made it harder than it needed to be, and before I made mistakes that has been difficult to reverse. So today I want to talk about 4 very specific things and a few extra just little tips to kind of go along with it. First thing I would do differently is I would have started lifting weights. When most people think losing weight, they immediately think cardio. I was that guy. They think treadmill, they think burn calories, sweat, repeat. And that's what I did for a long time. I actually fell in love with running, so I'm still doing it. I was logging miles, sweating, showing up, repeating, and the scale was moving down. So I thought I had that part figured out. What I didn't realize was I was probably losing muscle. I was getting lighter, but I wasn't really building anything. And the moment I would hit a plateau or I'd have a rough week, there wasn't anything underneath to support. Finally, after I lost most of the weight, I got to the gym and I started lifting weights. And like actually committing to it, learning how to use free weights, really diving into weightlifting, not just doing a few machines at the end of a cardio session. And that's when my body started to look different and feel different, not just way different. And I think that's the part that people miss. I lost a lot of the weight, but I still never looked the way that I wanted to, and I didn't feel exactly the way that I wanted to. And the biggest takeaway about lifting weights was the process of losing more fat started to get dramatically easier. And here's why things got easier. Muscle is metabolically expensive. The more muscle you have, the more calories your body will burn to maintain it. So more muscle means a slightly higher metabolic rate, which really means being in a calorie deficit, which is ultimately the main goal, gets a little easier. Not dramatically easier. I'm not trying to hype this up. I'm not saying that at all. But it is easier. And when you're trying to build a new life, every little thing that you can do to make it just a bit easier is going to make a difference over a long period of time. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, but first let me tell you about today's sponsor. You know that moment late at night when you feel like something is off? And suddenly you're on your phone at 11:30 p.m. Googling symptoms, up all night, convincing yourself that whatever's wrong is way worse than what it actually is. I've been there more times than I'd like to admit, personally. And honestly, what usually stops me from booking an appointment with a doctor isn't not wanting care, it's the hassle. You have to call during office hours, being put on hold. And when you finally get an appointment, it's 6 weeks out. But Zocdoc, today's sponsor, removes all that. Zocdoc is a free website where you can search for high quality, in-network doctors, read real patient reviews, and book an appointment instantly, without talking to anyone on the phone. You can search by specialty or symptom, whether that's primary care, dermatology, dentistry, eye care. Over 200 specialties with over 150,000 providers across all 50 states. Want to see your doctor in person? Great! Want a video visit? You can do that too. And you can read verified patient reviews to see who's actually listening, who fits your vibe, and who has real-time availability, including video visits and in-person appointments, often within 24 to 72 hours. Appointments made through Zocdoc happen fast, sometimes even same day. For me, it's the difference between spiraling out at night and actually waking up knowing I have care lined up. So gang, be kind to yourself this year. Using Zocdoc is free. Click the link in the description below or head to Zocdoc.com/SauceStache to find and instantly book an appointment with top-rated in-network doctors today. Zocdoc, thanks for sponsoring today's video and for creating such an incredible service. Now, the second thing I think about a lot, and this one's completely different than what I think a lot of diets really train your brain to think about, and that is adding, not taking away. Every diet I ever heard of when I was trying to lose weight was always about subtracting something. Stop eating X to have Y. Stop eating Y to have X. Very little was, hey, add a lot more of this into your diet. And I get why. Logically, it makes sense. If you're eating too much of something, you need to remove it from your diet. But here's what happened to me this time around, which completely changed everything. The more I focused on adding healthier things to my diet, the less I was thinking about what I was removing. Specifically, foods that fill you up. High volume, high fiber, high satiety. Stuff that takes up real space in your stomach, that digests slowly. Stuff that keeps you full for hours. When your diet is mostly built around those types of foods, you're not struggling with hunger. You're not struggling with snacking or eating a little of the thing that you enjoy and waiting hours until you can get the next bite of it. I have a lot of those videos on my channel. I'll link to one right here. But just to show one example, this bowl of broccoli is 100 calories. Now, I'm not gonna just power through a bowl of raw broccoli. That would be annoying. I don't really personally enjoy that. You might. But for me, I'd probably steam this and then add it into a dish that I already enjoy. But if you would go with what I used to have, what I would think would be a healthy meal would be, a sandwich. This piece of bread is 130 calories. This is going to keep me a heck of a lot fuller longer than this single slice of bread. Now, if I had a bowl of something and a half a sandwich, well, now I'm starting to develop a pretty good lunch that's gonna really fill me up and keep me full for a longer period of time. But the shift of what I can't have to what I can be eating, where I get really excited to build these huge bowls of food that were really low calorie, and that would just, it would take me a long time to kind of power through. That's a real mindset change. It's actually kind of exciting. Dieting stopped feeling like a punishment and started feeling like a reasonable way of eating and a way that I could eat forever. Didn't feel like something that was short term to lose weight and then stop. It was just a shift into a whole new way of eating for the rest of my life. That's the version that's sustainable, where deprivation isn't. Now, the third thing is I move a lot more than I used to. And I want to be careful how I say this because I know how it feels when people talk about moving more. You immediately feel judged, like there isn't enough hours in a day, or that you're already doing plenty. That's how I always felt. I always felt like I was pretty active. I genuinely did. Before this journey, I would always tell people that I was active. But now that I actually see what it takes to be in shape, the consistency, the steps, the little things that I had to add in to keep the goal going, I wasn't close. To be honest, I wasn't even in the same neighborhood. Now here's the thing, I don't say that to shame anybody because I see both sides of this. And I say that because the reason why I move now is completely different than the reason why I thought I should move back then. Before I started this journey, moving in fitness was because I thought I had to. I thought you had to do this movement. I don't move now because I have to. It's not about burning calories or losing weight. I don't move because I have to stay in shape. And I think if I were to go back in time and have a conversation with myself 5 years ago, I would have laughed at that sentence. But beyond that comes a lot of different things. The better shape you're in, the better you function, your energy is better, your focus is better. When I started this, I told myself I was gonna focus on my health and my life because I could. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have to give up a little bit of that life and a little bit of maybe some income or not be able to make as many videos. But I'm making more now and making videos that I really enjoy making now more than before. I used to get road rage and now I don't care. Life has been easier and better because I feel better. My relationships are better. My work is better. I'm getting things done more, even though I have less time because I'm spending more time on my fitness, but I'm able to get my work done quicker because of focus. But you're no good to anyone if you're not functioning at your best. It's kind of like the prerequisite to everything else. So the point is, move more. Find something you love that is going to keep you wanting to do it. I never imagined I would love running. You couldn't have gone back at any point in my life and tell me that would be something I would have fallen in love with. But man, once you find that thing, it truly does change everything. That mental shift is available to more people than most people think. Okay, last thing, and the one that I would go back and tell myself most urgently. This is not a diet. It's not a challenge. There's no time limit. It's not a thing that you do where you get to your goal and then you celebrate an end. The problem with diets is they end. And when it ends, the weight comes back, sometimes a lot more. It's happened to me
many times. That's yo-yo dieting. It's why it happens. And then you feel like you failed and you try to start over and it gets harder and harder every time. The cycle continues. I did that. A lot of people do that. That doesn't mean you're weak. It just means that the approach is wrong. And the problem with most diets is you're either succeeding or failing. Like the moment you eat something off of the diet, that's a fail. And that's bad. That doesn't work. And when it feels bad, that's when people quit. That's what makes people quit a lot of the times. And that's not a you problem. That's the structure of dieting being broken from the beginning. Now, what I believe in is thinking about your diet, not a diet, but thinking about your diet as a series of very small investments into the rest of your life. Changes or investments that you can live with forever. Adjustments that I can make and stick with indefinitely. Because over time, all of those small little investments will start to compound and grow. And I mean that literally. They will compound and you will start to lose more weight, feel better, you're gonna get stronger and healthier, you're gonna feel like you can do more things. The same way that money compounds in a bank account when you leave it alone, the same things will happen here when you start to tune and tweak your life to become healthier. And that's what this feels like. It's not perfection. It's not a challenge. It's not a game to get to at the end. It's not something to where you can constantly say, like, look at my update, how much weight I've lost, because it's going to be a roller coaster with ups and downs. You're going to lose weight, you're going to gain weight, and sometimes it's not going to be perfect, but as long as you keep investing into your health, over time, things will get better. When you reframe it in a way to where it's always moving forward, you really aren't ever failing. That's not saying that there's never going to be moments that feel hard, but you shouldn't feel like a failure when you step on the scale and weight comes back sometimes, because you know that it fluctuates and things will continue to change. And as long as you keep investing, it's gonna keep compounding. Some days you might make different choices and that's okay. It's not the end of the world because you know that tomorrow and next week and throughout time, you're just going to keep making better choices. You don't have to feel bad when it's somebody's birthday. You can have the cake. You just know that you're not gonna be eating cake every single day. And that's what makes this work. I think about where I started. I was never able to see a version of me that looked and felt like this. I never imagined a life to where I would have now 3 marathon medals. I never even could dream that. When I first started thinking about weight loss, my goal was a completely different version of me, how I am now. It wasn't even close to this. And I hear that when people talking about dieting, they just want to get to a certain weight and then they're good at that. When you start thinking about health, it's not even about weight. I don't really pay attention to my weight. It's now just about how I feel and what I can do. What can I push my body to accomplish? And it's incredible. A lot of it was flawed, but in the end, I just kept focusing on being healthier. That's how 110 pounds happened. It wasn't one commitment. Thousands of small ones made over time by somebody that wasn't waiting for the motivation to do something. I just kind of kept pushing no matter what anyways. Gang, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you've noticed the changes. Lots have changed. More things are going to keep changing, but thanks for sticking around. If you're new here, this is kind of how it is now. I hope you enjoy. I have a recipe coming up next week. That's a pretty good one. It's a giant breakfast that is actually pretty dang good for you.